In China, missile manufacturers have decided to expose their country's military strength. The Chinese Communist Party had plans to scare India with its missiles, but those who have made such missiles have spilled cold water on all such plans. Now, not only India, but the whole world knows about the reality of China's missile program. Chinese missiles have a strike rate of 20%. If that is not hilarious, we do not know what is. Hi and welcome. This is TFI English, the national socio-political analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I'm your host Tribhuvan, and in this video I will tell you how defense contractors within China have taken upon themselves the job of exposing China's military might. Let's begin. In order to sustain China's ambitions of global domination, the communist nation is required to continuously flex its non-existent muscles. Recently, it was reported that China had tested two new hypersonic weapons that could travel at more than 5 times the speed of sound, a development a senior US commander described as very significant. So China is really raising eyebrows around the world with its latest moves. But the world community is not bereft of hilarious intel of its own. In fact, media reports now reveal how defense contractors within China have taken upon themselves the job of exposing China's military might and making a joke out of their country. China's missile might have been exposed on umpteen occasions. However, what has happened now is truly hilarious. The CCP tried to show the world how Chinese missiles would be undergoing an increased number of tests. However, those making these missiles have protested vehemently. So, the CCP junked its extravagant plan and settled for a modest one. Here's what has happened. According to a report by the South China Morning Post, China has increased the number of test flights its missiles must undergo before they enter mass production in an effort to improve reliability. New air-to-air missiles previously had to take 8 tests where they hit a moving target to prove their worth, a requirement that has now risen to 15. The report added that when coupled with other tests, for example, checking its resilience against electromagnetic pulse attacks, the new missiles will have to undertake around 20 tests. According to a paper published by military researcher Li Zhensheng and colleagues of the China Airborne Missile Academy in Luoyang, some problems such as unsatisfactory equipment delivery and unstable quality have surfaced. They added that the CCP wants these problems resolved before the mass production of the said missiles. Interestingly, the Chinese regime came up with 2 proposals and was putting its weight behind the second one. One required a new missile to be fired 15 times without any failure, and the other 27 times with no more than one failure to ensure a success rate of more than 90%. Now, here's where the fun begins. The CCP wanted to test missiles 27 times before mass production, but those manufacturing these missiles, knowing very well that their products were really capable of, began protesting against the Chinese military's moves. According to SCMP, the military's proposal prompted protest from defense contractors who argued new missile chances of passing these tests would be less than 20%. In face of such protests, the Chinese military decided to settle for a compromise. Now a deal has been reached between the CCP and missile manufacturers, according to which the contractor produces 50 missiles, from which the military randomly picks 15 for testing. The new weapon gets the green light for deployment if no more than 2 miss the target. Therefore, China's military missile program has been exposed like never before, and coming from the horse's mouth, the PLA has suffered a tremendous setback. Its propaganda has fallen flat, and the world now knows the reality of Chinese missiles. Around the time the CCP was celebrating its centenary anniversary, people began circulating that China was building 100 new intercontinental ballistic missiles, also known as ICBM, silos in the desert near Yemen in the country's northwest, implying a mass expansion of its nuclear capabilities. But in reality, it seems that they were never missile silos anyway, but are wind turbines. So the missile silo story was all part of China's propaganda blitzkrieg and shell game strategy. Here's the deal with China. It is a paper dragon. Its military might is, of course, projected as gigantic. However, below the grandeur rests the fact that Chinese men and machines are simply unreliable, weak, and break down easily. The situation with the PLA is so grim that China today trusts lifeless weapons and machines more than it trusts its soldiers, who, by the way, suffer from an excessive masturbation addiction. Such wimp-like soldiers have the least interest in dying for the CCP. Therefore, even in the combat field, Chinese soldiers prefer the easier way out, and it usually involves surrendering to the enemy force. Such behavior is directly attributable to the extreme low morale of the Chinese troops. So it makes sense for China to go ballistic with its missile program. The CCP needs to compensate for its soldiers' lack of courage on some front, and it seems to have settled for the missile front to do the same. What it does not realize is that the world is laughing at it after missile manufacturers took upon themselves the task of exposing their products' might.